Hi, it's time for chapters 5 and 6, and I will start with the first question. And the first question is, when me or my colleagues are faced with a challenge, minor or major, that comes our way, I'm to look at the list of some tips for dealing with change. So I looked at the tips that were dealing with change, and I did pick three. Um, and the three tips that I picked were: learn from previous experiences. You have met change before and survived. So this is a story or an example or a scenario. So I'm going to give an example of just me coming back to school after having a surgery, or just being on FMLA for a certain period of time, and coming back and feeling overwhelmed and out of place. So I know that happened over the summer. I was out. I was out for, I think, actually I ended up being out a little bit before the summer semester ended, and I had to do one of my assignments from the hospital. But um, I found out that even with knowing that I had overcome being out before, I knew that I could do it again, even though, and I survived that. So I know that being out and facing the challenge of coming back to seeming like overwhelming amount of work and playing catch up can be extremely kind of frightening, stressful in a way. So conduct yourself in a thoughtful and caring way during stressful times. So again, during that or doing this, because even now I think it's been, how am I going to say, I came back off of FMLA and towards the end of August, maybe going into September. I think it was the end of August, but it was definitely before school started back for this fall semester. A little bit in between that, but classes really hadn't fully started. And I came to realize that I was stressed, very stressed, having to come back. Still not feeling quite completely healed, but knowing that I needed to come back. So that was a stressful time. So I think I handled it with grace, and gave myself that grace, and did not become too overwhelmed, but tried not to get too stressed out, just because when you're stressed, you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And I did not want to do that. And I wanted to be more reserved in that aspect. Um, know that if others can do something, then so can you. So I know that I was talking to my assistant principal in reference to another class's assignment, and how it was actually the practicum class in reference to collecting data and being a school, or just data driven decisions within the school. Everything should be reflected in the data, and how we teach the students. So I did share with her how I felt that, and I had to shadow. So I felt that was that was a really great experience. And she asked me, what did I want to do, being that I was in the program. And I told her. She said, so are you aspiring to be a principal? And I quickly said no. And she was like, well, why not? I was like, well, I never really felt that I wanted to be a leader. I actually like just being low key and not needing all of that extra to do. I like working with the students and just doing my part. And she was like, but that's where the fun is. So, I was like, And, once I saw this question and I thought about it, and I was just thinking, like, if she can do it, Why wouldn't I be able to do it? Because just by her asking that question, it seemed to me that I picked up she had just as much, she had confidence in me that I should have had in myself to know that if she felt I could do it, that I could do it myself. So that's question one. Question two is asking about parent involvement. Facilitate parental involvement. Think of a success story that I could share. So I remember when I had, a couple of years ago, or several years ago, when I had first started teaching, and I I had a student, or had students that, or this particular student, you know, you have students that are always doing things or just doing stuff, or but I will always stay on my students to where I have a higher I have high standard for them. So I try to be stern, but at the same time loving, in the aspect of letting them know that they're cared about. So this particular student, I would always call his mom. His mom would always come into the school, and I remember when he got ready to go to eighth grade, or no, to the high school, and she did reach out to me, and she said that she said she was happy that he was able to be in my class, and that he was on my caseload of students, because I had him more than 1 year. I think I had him actually twice. And even if I didn't have him, wherever he went, I think I followed that group of students from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So that was really, really fun times to see them every year and teach them in some aspect. But she thanked me, and and it was genuine. So, and she said she thanked me for the communication and just trying to make him do the things that he needed to do, and just communicating and warning her or letting her know what was going on, because she did make frequent trips up to the school, which was good. And he knew if I said I'm calling mom, it was something that was going to happen. And this is kind of like not on the topic, but I guess it is. It can be. And I know that my son actually was friends with him, kind of sort of when he was in high school. Even though my son was a little bit older, he ended up, they both graduated, but some kind of way, the student is playing football, and he actually asked about me through my son, and he gave me a call to let me know how he was so thankful for me, working with him and getting, because everything was like, everything you said was true. He was like, so that made me feel like I had made a difference. That everything that we do as teachers isn't just taken for granted. They do have that aha moment, like, okay, that lady just wasn't talking crazy and she was getting on my nerves. So that was what I got from that one. And the third one, we're going to the third question. It is direct leadership. Having an example of sitting through a group meeting and having a leader that is direct leadership. I have been in, I know it's been several meetings, and I know that direct leadership is never fun. It's not fun. And an example can be that I've had, and I'm trying to think of the example in a good way to explain it. I know that, okay, it was recently we had a meeting, and the meeting was, just a random meeting, and the meeting was called by the assistant principal. And I think the principal wasn't able to make it, but it was as if we had done, as the staff had done something wrong. What had happened was, and I think I even talked about this, and it was recent. The staff had responded, some of the staff members had responded to an email. However, or I should back up a little bit. We have a new principal. Some of us are still new to the school. Some teachers are new. However, I have been there, and I've been through several principals, and some of the other staff have been through several principals. So, this is getting to know someone else, someone new. So, I can say that the principal kind of like introduced herself, and she said she's very transparent. She has an open door policy. It seemed like it was just too good to be true. So we have a faculty meeting. The faculty meeting is basically about do's and don'ts, pet peeves, and things of that nature. So one of the pet peeves was broken, say for instance, by not trusting people outside of the county. So whenever you don't trust somebody outside or on the board, at the board, or someone in the county, pretty much everything's supposed to stay in-house. So there is the reprimand if you do anything outside of communicating with them, with that person, with the principal. Everything has to go through them. If you need some help, tell me or tell one of the other principals, and we'll try to find it out. However, it doesn't matter if it's not your expertise. You still don't want anybody else to know. That can help you make it make sense to me. I don't understand that. If we're really and truly all in this together to better educate students, why is there so much? To me, it seems too political in the fact that I'm gonna house everything, and I'm gonna keep all my stuff bottled up here. But the principal got mad because the teacher asked for some help, and it was just sent an email, and it was just like, it was a big mess, to where everybody in the school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, everyone had a actual planning period. And there was a discussion to where we got scolded about responding to emails and going outside of things. And if you wanted to respond, what you needed to do is to respond directly to that person if you needed your answers answered. I thought it was kind of petty, but hey, I just take it with a grain of salt. Everybody is who they are. And it's kind of like, during that meeting and that scolding, it was about time and not having the time to do this and that as a teacher. And I really got from the delivery, take it or leave it, do what we ask, and that's it. And really just shut up and be quiet. Don't ask any questions. Don't respond. Don't have your own thoughts outside of the thoughts that I want you to have. And that came across to me as direct leadership, period. If you ask anything, you ask me. And whatever I tell you is what you need to take in consideration to. It's just that. Even though you saying it's an open door, but it's really not. Okay. So there are pros and there are cons in that. Pros and cons are, the pros would be, you know what you're supposed to do. And you know that if you don't, that could be, yeah, that's a pro. I think that's a pro. That's a plus. You're going to know what you need to do. The con in that is that I think that could bring anxiety. You're going to be uptight. You're going to be tense. It's just going to be stressful. You're going to be walking around on eggshells and Who wants to work in an environment like that? To me, that's almost like a hostile work environment, to where you have to be mindful all the time of what you're doing, what you're saying, how you do it, when you do it, who to talk to, who not to talk to. I don't know if the sun is out, or if it's I don't. That's crazy. But the next one was facilitator style. So a facilitator style, and what's the advantage of that? So I say a facilitator is like, you pretty much, I've seen the facilitator style is kind of like what we were told that we're supposed to do during our professional learning community. It's supposed to be like a facilitator. We're supposed to be, or it's supposed to be, to where the instructional coach is there, but the instructional coach is a facilitator. However, I have seen recently, or just in general since the beginning, since I got back, the facilitator is really facilitating, and then when you're facilitating, you're trying to let everyone else lead the meeting and do the things that they need to do. However, when there's room for people to kind of like, they do what they want to do. I've seen that people, they talk when we should be working. There's less going along with what should be going on. No one's following the agenda. No one's, or the norms of the meeting. It's almost sometimes like a free-for-all. There is a little work getting done, but not quite all the work is getting done. And then it's almost like a blame game. Well, the facilitator let us. Well, it's as if the facilitator or is a friend. And I can even say the example of me when in class and I'm facilitating. I'm trying to get the students to do what they're supposed to do, and I just facilitate. I'm floating, trying to make sure that they're doing the things that they're supposed to do. I end up being robbed of time, and they rob themselves of the time that they need to be acquiring the content. So they're talking about other things, or they're just not doing the work in general, or it's always some type of sidebar. So I find that the facilitator side is less stressful. I mean, you can go in and you can be relaxed and real easy going. However, you're not sticking to the plans. You're not productive you're not as productive as you should be, is what I find that the facilitator style can be. But I think that if we learn how to marry the two together and find that happy medium between facilitator and direct, everything would be great. Because at the end of the day, we need to know how to talk to each other. We need to know what to say, how to say it, and how people respond. So everybody's characteristics or character is different, and we need to know how to read the room and read the people. And it's like myself, I do have a friend, coworker, and she's now like my supervisor. And I can even use her as an example. Very anal, very, very direct. It's this way. It has to be this way. When I say direct in the sense of direct, it's down to me writing a date. Say, for instance, I'm dating on a document 9/26/2000, 2025, and it's in the numeric way, and it's not written out September 26th. You know what I'm saying? 2025. It's as if that is just crazy, to where it's like it gets sent back. I have to redo it. So, and I know that was a sidebar. That was just another example. But I think that when we have a medium and a balance, it works more. It works better. You get more productive. People are more productive, they're happier, and even though they might not like what they're doing or like what you're saying, they have a leeway, they have ease. I know that's how I find myself, to where if I'm direct, sometimes if it's just so direct, it's just attention. You really don't like doing what you're supposed to be doing. That makes the work not saying that it should be fun, but it's not desirable for you. So I really enjoyed these chapters. Again, relating them back to Knowles, I feel that as a teacher leader, these are important aspects to know, because we're continuing to learn. We want to learn, at least that's what I want to do, and be able to be effective as a teacher leader, and just the things of the program, and knowing how to be a well-rounded person in this position that I'm going to obtain. So I think I've answered all the questions. So talk to you next time.